I'm showing 7:30 on June the 20th. I'd like to convene the June 20th, 2024 meeting of the Dartmouth Board of Public Works. I noticed that I note that this meeting is being recorded and that the meetings of the board, the board is meeting remotely through Zoom. Because of that, we're going to have a roll call. Mr. LaBelle?
Here.
The chair is here. We are a three-member board, therefore we have a quorum. First order of business is to approve and accept warrants.
Motion to approve and accept the warrants for bills payable period ending May 20 and 28 and June 3 and 10 of 2024.
Mr. LaBelle moves approval and acceptance of warrants. Chair seconds. All in favor? Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Warrants are approved. Next item is approve and accept payrolls.
Motion to approve and accept the payrolls for the weeks ending May 18 and 25 and June 1, 8, and 15 of 2024.
Motion has been made by Mr. LaBelle. The chair seconds the motion. All in favor, Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Payrolls are approved. Next item is to approve and accept meeting minutes from May 23rd, 2024. I have some minor corrections I'd like to read here. In the first page, the second paragraph from the bottom, I suggest the first portion of that first sentence be deleted, and then it should read, the meeting was adjourned and the board went into executive session to discuss a grievance submitted by a DPW employee. The second suggested change is on the top of the in the first sentence of the first paragraph on the discussion of utility rates. In the first line to read, Mr. Rollins presented a report on water and sewer rates. And the last sentence to read, the material will also be presented to the select board. And my final suggested change is in the middle of the page, first item under new business, the last sentence to read, Mr. Barber and Mr. Sullivan will meet with Mr. Joblin to review the abatement request again. Those are my only changes. Mr. LaBelle, do you have any changes?
I have no changes. Those are all fine.
I will accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve and accept the meeting minutes from May 23rd, 2024 with stated changes.
Mr. LaBelle moves acceptance of the minutes as changed. The chair seconds. All in favor, Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Votes aye. Minutes are approved as modified. Our next item is an item, and we're going to go into executive session pursuant to general laws.
Mr. Chairman.
21B1. We will, in that executive session, we will be discussing a grievance. We will not, I want to emphasize, we will not be discussing a review of the director's evaluation. Mr. Barber, do you have any comments on this?
No, I was going to ask that since Ben Rollins from Western Sampson and Matt Abrahams from the Abrahams Group is there online, if we could go out of order and maybe work on the utility rate.
I like to finish the executive session since we're
Okay.
partly into it. I don't think it's going to take very long.
Yep. Sounds good.
The subject of the executive session is to discuss a complaint with potential action by a formal complaint by a DPW employee. We will adjourn from our, we will recess our regular session. And then we will reconvene to our regular session after the executive session. I will accept a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to move to executive session.
Mr. LaBelle has moved to enter executive session. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We'll now go into executive session. So if we could ask the other participants in this meeting to go into the waiting room briefly, and then we will reconvene in a few minutes. All right, we're now in executive session. All right, we have concluded our executive session. And we will now reconvene the Dartmouth Public Works meeting of June 20th, 2024. It is now 7:46. The next item is old business. Do we have a, Tim, before we go into old business, do we have a representative from 7 Rockland Farm here?
It doesn't appear as so.
All right, let's go to old business B, FY25 utility rates.
Okay, so again, so Ben Rollins of Weston and Sampson and Matt Abrahams of the Abrahams Group is here. On Monday, we presented the rate study to the select board. And it seemed to be well received and well supported by the select board. Based on, you know, the capital improvements that we are looking to make in the future and continuing to offer the services that we offer. And the fact that, you know, keeping the rates, we all want to keep the rates as low as we can, but we still have to move forward with our capital improvements. And if we don't increase the rates to be able to fund those, then we will never be able to complete them. And there were comments related to a long-term plan committee for the town, and they're looking at, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in capital improvement in the next 20 years. This being wastewater and water being included in that. So I think, like I said, the select board was receptive and supportive. Moving forward, I'll let Ben and Matt briefly recap the report and the study that was completed.
Thanks,
Ben?
Tim. I'd love to share my screen if that's possible. Get the PowerPoint up here one last time for us, for old time's sake, right, guys?
Yeah, and I think we're pretty familiar with this. So,
Yeah.
As they
And I'll
say,
make
hit
a
the
note.
high points and any changes.
Sure thing. And I'll make a note right up front, and you guys can lead the discussion from there, that the rate change options really haven't changed since our last monthly meeting with the Board of Public Works. and since Monday night with the select board meeting as well. Like Tim had mentioned, the meeting went very well on Monday night. They were generally accepting of the need for these rate improvements, rate increases. So we didn't really make any major changes, Rob. So we could quickly run through these again, and go from there. We were hoping just to have kind of an open discussion. There we go. Got the screen sharing. Thank you. Okay, I should be sharing my screen now. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, great. So I have this PowerPoint open. Excuse me. Figured we could just quickly run through. We could quickly run through the presentation again. It is widely unchanged, Rob. So we could do this. We could spend the time to go through it again, or would you prefer to spend more time discussing the actual options themselves?
Tim, let me, at the risk of seeming direct, we basically saw two proposed rate increases as a percentage for the next 5 or 10 years, and what difference that would make. Do you have a recommendation for between the rate increase of 7.5% versus 8% for the wastewater enterprise fund?
So, see, this is the water. If you want to go down to the
Yeah,
Well,
let's go
okay,
to
let's do water first then.
Want to do water first? Yeah. So our two options for water, and we pull in Matt to discuss these options further. But our first option here is 8.75% increases through a 5-year period. And then our second option here is 7.5% through the first 6 years, and then 7 years, and then it does lower to 5.5% in the final 3 years of this 10-year outlook.
Tim, what's your recommendation for next year?
I recommend the 7.5%. It does bring up the retained earnings to to between 6 and 8% for the next 5 or so years, and then it starts creeping up higher. I think it'd be more fathomable than a higher percentage increase, and I think we can work with that.
All right.
And remember, we're voting on a rate just for FY25. This isn't
Correct.
deciding on the rate for the next 5 or 10 years.
Ron, do you have any comments or questions?
These rate increases will fund, if I'm reading this correctly, roughly 22 million in borrowing.
Let me just make a clarifying point there. So it would fund it if the rate plan that is shown before you is fully adopted. You're only approving 1 year at this point, but if you were to approve the rates as we're showing here, then yes, it would be fully funded. So in other words, 7.5% increase gets you on the path to fully funding the plan as you see it.
Across that spreadsheet. And we've looked at the investments we need to make on the water side, and that roughly $22 million in borrowing will get us there.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a chart in this presentation that shows the capital investments. So Ben, you might want to go there. Yeah. So for the 10-year option, you would look at the table on the bottom. It's set up to fund the capital projects as shown in the bottom table. But again, the rate plan there would have to be a multi-year rate increase along the lines of what we were looking at there in order to make it happen.
Okay, and that takes into consideration inflationary components over those years?
Yes, so
Okay.
one way to show you that would be if you compare the two tables. There are a few projects that show in both tables. So a good example would be the one that Ben has highlighted there, the raw water main improvements 299.
Yep.
We've inflated it such that if the project were to be funded in FY28, you're looking at about $1.78 million. If it were to be funded in FY 29, you're looking at about $1.85 million. So that highlights, I guess that the sooner these projects get worked on, the less costs presumably the town would incur because of that.
Now, the borrowing for these, we're gonna be borrowing that money? Do we know what the interest rates are gonna be? Is this SRF? Is it 2%? Is it 4%?
We don't know what the rates are gonna be, but because of the way that we do our projections, we try to be conservative in that area, just so that the town would be covered in case the interest rate is a higher one. And if it's not, then that helps and the cost would be less. In terms of what we're including, I'm just checking real quick. I'm not sure we assumed an SRF borrowing for any of these water projects. I think we only did on the sewer side. Does that ring a bell with you, Tim and Ben?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
yeah, so for these, we assumed conventional borrowings, which mean non-SRF. And we have it at 4.5% interest.
Okay,
So we believe that's being conservative based on if we can get SRF funding for these projects at a lower percentage.
Or even if you go out to market with a
Or-
conventional loan and it comes in lower than the
Right.
4.5, yeah.
Correct.
so the amortization is roughly 20 years then?
We have it over 20 years for these projects, yes.
Okay,
Just if I could a real quick example here. We've allotted $2.5 million in FY 28 for this PFAS treatment design and construction project. SRF loans for construction have typically been, right now they're 0% loans, which is awesome news. So we are being conservative with these numbers. Always best to be conservative with this information. And then also just want a quick note, these are basically the same projects, just kind of spread out over a longer period of time.
Yep,
This longer period is actually more realistic than this condensed 5-year plan. So I second Tim's recommendation on the 7.5% increase option.
All right.
that's
so
all I
Tim-
have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, so Tim, a couple of things. First, we're being asked to approve an increase in water rates and in sewer rates this morning. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we would approve these rate increases as separate motions.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. LaBelle, do you have a motion you'd like to make for water rates for the percentage increase?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve a water rate based on a 10-year capital plan of, I believe it's 7.5% annually through the course of these years.
And what you're doing is you're making a motion to approve the water rates for FY 2025.
Yeah.
All right. I have
Thank you. Yeah.
a motion by Mr. LaBelle to increase water rates by 7.5% in the next fiscal year. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to approve an increase in water rates is approved. Tim, can you and the team now move to wastewater, please?
Okay, so for sewer rates, we had 3 options here. One, there is a steady increase until a large, so it's probably best to talk about the capital improvements plans here first. Excuse me. So the one major CIP, the heavy item here is the wastewater treatment facility improvements that are needed as stated by this board, as stated by the select board. So we have a placeholder of $50 million in FY 28, which we've included in our calculations. Our first option to be able to fund this has a steady increase until FY 28, and then we bump up majorly 40% in 29. And there was a stark opposition to that during the select board meeting, understandably so. That 40% is a very scary number. And then a much more gradual increase thereafter. Option 2, we're starting at 10% for the first 5 years, and then 2.5% thereafter. And then a bit of a more gradual increase for option 3 includes 8.5% for the first 6 years here, and then 4% for the remaining four years there.
All right, Tim, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend the 8.5% increase in FY 25. Again, it brings that retained earnings above the 15% mark for a brief period, and then back down in the 5% range. The 10% brings it a lot higher than the 15% for a longer period, but I think the 8.5% would be more feasible for residents and fathomable for them.
All right, Mr. LaBelle, any questions?
No, again, this looks at a project somewhere out in 2029 of roughly $50 million.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. It's included in each of these options.
All right,
I
I will entertain a motion to set an increase in sewer rates for fiscal year 2025.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. LaBelle moves approval of an 8.5% increase in fiscal year 2025 sewer rates. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion is approved. Okay, anything else on this, Tim?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ben and Matt.
I just had,
You guys did a great job. Thank you.
thank you, Rob. Thank you, Ron.
You had
Appreciate
something
your
else?
time. I did have one final note here. As these capital plans, their costs and the need for funding become clearer. So we had that $50 million price tag in FY 2029. As that cost gets more clarified, as the scope gets more clarified, it's always great to kind of reevaluate these rate studies to better increase your rates or more gradually or more accelerated increase your rates as needed.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
Recommended
Oh,
to look at this on an annual basis, biannual, anything you guys are open to kind of continue looking at these major improvements that are needed to the water and sewer systems and how we change the rates accordingly.
All right, thank you. We generally look pretty hard at the rates and put Mr. Barber through the ringer as to the capital projects that are included. So we would expect to have a similar process next year, especially given the magnitude of the projects that we're looking at. And I might make a note for any of the public that's watching. It's important to realize that several very large projects have been funded through ARPA grants. And as such, the ratepayers in Dartmouth have not had to shoulder those costs. And much of the success of bringing those ARPA funds into the town lies with Mr. Barber and his team, as well as the assistant town administrator and collector. So I want to make that very clear. We've done pretty well with ARPA. Maybe we could have done better had we started some of the planning for some of these large projects earlier, but we have, I think, done a pretty good job with the hand we've been dealt. So thank you, Ben. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now
Thank you.
to old business number A, which is water abatement request for 7 Rockland Farm.
Take it.
Tim, do you have an update on that?
I do. So Steve Sullivan and I met with Mr. Joblin based on the board's recommendations at the last meeting. They due to the fact that the incorrect meter was read by the utility billing clerk on the cellular read program, because the meter was changed out and the new meter endpoint wasn't provisioned at that time. So there was no use recorded through 3 quarters, and these bills are billed quarterly. So we believe that, you know, if there was a possibility of a leak or a high bill at those times, the resident would have come forward, you know, during one of those quarters. But due to the fact that basically he received a full bill for a full year for full 4 quarters all at once, there was no time to actually go back and look at the actual reads, because the actual meter wasn't provisioned at that time. So we couldn't go back and do a profile for the usage. So we have no data to look at whether the usage was a leak or a common usage. You know, typically the sewer bill is really low, pretty low on that usage, and they typically, irrigation through the summer drives up the bill a bit, but I haven't seen an annual usage of over $6,000 or just over $6,000 per year annually. By, you know, typical use was in the, I think, $4,000 to $5,000 annual use. So that you know, he had an $18,000 bill, and we can't go back and look at the data, unfortunately. So Mr. Joblin had paid $5,000 of that bill, and we agreed that he would pay another $2,000 towards that bill for $7,000, and we would abate a total of another $7,563.11 towards that bill. And then moving forward, we can keep track of the usage, and if there's any discrepancies, whether it appears to be a leak or excessive usage from irrigation, we'll have that data on the new software moving forward.
Does the board have any questions? All right,
Um,
Tim, so what is your recommendation?
I recommend that we process and approve this abatement from Mr. Joblin, and
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the abatement in the amount of how much?
$7,563.11.
As stipulated.
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by the chair. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The abatement's approved as described by the Public Works Director. All right, next item is under new business, a water abatement request for 54 Palmer Street. Mr. Barber, do you have a recommendation on this?
Yeah, so this, another, 54 Palmer Street, the resident, was notified multiple times for non-payment of their water and sewer bill. The water division had gone out and attempted to shut the curb stop off, and then the resident paid the bill, and the water division went back out to turn the water back on. During those times, they did not get a full shut off, so the resident never lost functionality of their water service. So they you know, the water service stayed operational. But they did receive a bill for $100 for the department going out 2 times, once to shut off and once to turn on, $50 each. The only problem I see is that the water division did not issue a shut off. They usually give a red card for a shut off, and they'll leave it on the door at the residence. This was not given to the resident at that time, so they didn't know it was being shut off. And the abatement request also states that, you know, the water department never shut the water off because I never lost water usage, where it was attempted, it just wasn't completed. So, speaking with Steve Sullivan, we recommend a $50 abatement, at half of the cost for our department to go out and shut the water off. But they did go out twice, so we would keep one of the $50 bills.
Any questions?
Well, just one quick one, Tim. Why, if they went out to shut it off, did it not shut off? Was there a problem with the valve?
Could have been the curb stop, could have been something, debris or something in the curb. They might not have really worked it. They may have just shut it and it didn't get a full curb, full shut
Okay.
off. They may have not have listened to it where you can hear that the water completely shut off.
Yep. Okay.
Right, so do I have a motion?
Motion to abate the $50 off the 54 Palmer Street.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So we've just approved a $50 abatement on the request from 54 Palmer Street. All right, next up is a discussion of a potential comment letter to Commonwealth of Massachusetts DEP regarding a proposed TMDL statewide that includes both the Shingle River and Pascamanset River in within the town of Dartmouth. I'll lead the discussion on this. This came up literally about 2 weeks ago. And it turns out that the director of public health gave me a phone call and informed me that there was a public review period that was about to close on this item. I have been unable to find anyone in the town of Dartmouth that was given constructive notice in a timely manner. The TMDL is for pathogens, which amounts to a regulation on based on Enterococcus and fecal coliform. The numbers that are in the proposed TMDL are based on samples that were taken in 2005 and 2013. The actual TMDL document, that is the proposed actions in response, were general, as would be appropriate as guidelines rather than a specific set of actions for a TMDL. And most egregiously, there was just a blank page for public involvement. I gave oral comments at a second public comment period that was scheduled at the last minute. That was last week. It caused me to miss another committee meeting that was held at the town. I have proposed a draft letter regarding our potential concerns on this, primarily focused on the lack of public notice, the general approach to the actual response to TMDLs, out-of-date information, and inadequate description of Shingle River and Pascamanset watersheds, emphasizing the importance of public involvement in changing behavior and establishing new rules and allocating tax dollars. I've also suggested that the DEP step back from this process and consider, first of all, prioritizing the 211 plus reaches that are listed in this proposed action, and try and refocus on those watersheds that have critical uses, including body contact recreation and direct usage for either shellfish or other agricultural activities, and then approach them through a regional body such as the regional planning agencies that are exist statewide, and engage the towns that way. Anyway, I have no idea how these comments would be accepted, but I tried to not only be critical, but make a suggestion as to a better way forward. Any questions?
This all came, I'm kind of at a loss. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty much a kind of a shock to all of us. Just,
I mean, I've been kind of in a daze for the last 4 days, but I kind of wrapped myself around this and I said, you gotta be kidding me. Well, you know, Rob, I applaud your efforts. I'd love to read that response you're gonna send, you know, and from my perspective, this is typical DEP.
Yep.
You know, sneak it through the back door.
I do have a couple recommended edits I can send you, Rob. One most notably is it's not the Shingle River, but it's the Shingle Island River.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Can you-
so I redlined it and I'll send it along.
That would be good. And then we can finalize and send by email.
Okay.
Ron, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, if this is important enough to spend the public's money on, then and establish a regulatory framework, it really needs to be done in a way that's effective. And you know, I won't go over my qualifications, but I started with non-point source stormwater regulatory issues in 1998, and built a both regional program and specific MS4 programs for smaller communities, 7 smaller communities. And you know, we dealt with TMDLs and we dealt with bacteria, and there are some ways to deal with it, but it depends on each watershed and what the issues are. And you got to spend some time understanding those watersheds.
Yeah, you can't use 10-year-old data.
Yeah, and you don't use 10-year-old data. Exactly. All right. So I would entertain a motion to approve a comment letter to be finalized between the chair and the Director of Public Works.
I'll make that motion.
So I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle. The chair seconds. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Tim, you and I can connect either this afternoon or early tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. Very well done, though. Very well done.
Okay, thank you. Next item is item C, Pascamanset River drinking water supply protection. Tim?
So we're still on the lines of the Pascamanset River. So we have we presented to the Board of Selectmen the conservation restriction on the Pascamanset River drinking water supply protection land, just under 200 acres, around 196 acres of the Cornell Farm property that we're planning to purchase, and the conservation restriction was required by the state and by the Community Preservation Committee. The conservation restriction was in the packets, you know, and it basically, it restricts and protects, you know, water quality, water supply, wetlands, public access, passive recreation. It does, you know, it does look good for our Water Management Act permit as well for mitigation. So we will get credits based on the amount of land that we are protecting. I don't know, does anybody have any questions on this? So we're just to let you know, we're trying to close on this property next week. It looks like town council is pushing for the 27th of June. So, you know, if there are any issues, it gives us Friday, the 28th to finalize it for the end of the fiscal year.
Any questions, Mr. LaBelle? We've actually seen this item a couple of meetings ago.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm good.
And Mark Rasmussen of Buzzard Bay is also here. If anybody has any questions for Mark, or if you have anything to say.
Yeah, no, just to say thank you. It's been really great to work with Tim and his team on this.
Yeah.
And we'll get it done. It's been 15 months of putting this together, but a really nice partnership and way to get this done at no cost to the town outside of CPA, which is really great. So I'd love to hope this is the first of many kind of water protection land deals we can do together. This one worked out great.
Absolutely.
Right. So, Tim, what kind of a motion do you need on this?
Approval of the conservation restriction. And
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the conservation restriction.
Mr. Bell has moved to approve the conservation restriction. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. DeBell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Votes aye, it's approved. Mr. Rasmussen, Mark, if I may, a couple of things. First of all, I deeply appreciate working with the Buzzards Bay Coalition on a wide range of water quality issues, and this being the most recent one. So whoever on your staff has been working on this, thank them for us. And on a completely inappropriate and different note, what is that chart behind your right shoulder?
I should have the
I'm
one that Rob has, I think. That's what I should. But that's the Stockholm Archipelago in the Baltic Sea.
Okay, I was trying to make it Australia, but the island to the south was the wrong distance from to be Tasmania. So
Yeah. No, it's the east coast of Sweden. Yeah.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rasmussen. I appreciate your time on this and the effort of your team. So
Thank you, Rob. And credit goes, I should recognize, I'm here standing in for Alan Decker. Alan's our land protection director, and he's been doing all the work with Tim on this. So credit goes to Alan. But thank you very much, Rob, for that. Could I add, Tim, one thing I had from Alan was to make sure that the board also accepted the assignment. Currently, we have assigned PNS with the Cornell family. And at the closing table, we'll sign that over to the town of Dartmouth to acquire the land. So Alan was wondering whether or not that should also get a vote, Tim, a vote to accept the assignment of the PNS from Buzzards Bay Coalition.
yeah, so currently the purchase and sales is with the seller and with Buzzards Bay, but Buzzards Bay is assigning that to the DPW Water Division and Water Commissioners.
all right, so we'd need a second motion to accept the assignment.
Yep.
All right, do you have a motion to accept the assignment of the purchase of the property to the water? Is it to Water and Sewer Division or to the Water Division, Tim?
Water.
So a
Okay.
motion to approve the purchase and sales agreement for the water division.
Mr. LaBelle has made a motion to accept the assignment. Chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to accept the transfer of ownership is approved. All right, good.
Can I actually, I'm sorry, Tim, one more thing. I don't know, since Alan sent me with a list of things to make sure that happened in the vote.
So
So
signatures.
the Secretary of Environmental Affairs signs on Monday. So we
Yes.
need signatures, right? Yeah.
Yes,
All right, what do you need for signatures on this?
2, I believe.
From the board?
Notarized. Yep.
No doubt.
Okay, well, that's important. So how I can go in and do you have a notary in the office, Tim?
Yes, Jen is a notary.
All
Yeah,
right,
we have
now-
3 here.
All right, now how do we handle getting Ron's signature?
We can take a trip to you.
Okay,
All right,
that works.
all right. So
And I'll come and get it from you, Tim. Whenever it's ready, just let us know and we'll come over and get it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
all right, so Tim, I'll let you arrange with Ron getting his signature.
Sure.
And I'll come in. When do you think you might go? Well, let me, I'll have to come in this afternoon, maybe right after lunch.
Okay, so I can go out to see Ron this morning.
All right.
I'll be here.
All right,
For visitors, Ron?
yes. Jen?
A notary has to go to him.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Right.
Okay.
All right.
Mark, nice
Okay.
seeing you.
Thank you. Great to see all of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Mark.
next side. Anything else on this, Tim?
Nope, no, I just
All right,
think.
next
Mark.
item is approval, a ban of permit use for illegal dumping.
Yes, so we had a resident, part of the SMART program, with a sticker to use the transfer station in the brush, drop-off area. Came into the facility at, like 6:58 one morning, to dump brush, and I guess, so we do have proper signage, both along the driveway and at the gate for the brush driveway access, which states that we open the facility every morning at 7:15. I guess the resident must have seen that the gates were closed, maybe, or didn't read the signage, but turned around and headed up the driveway and then proceeded to dump in the driveway rather than wait till 7:15 a.m. At the time, one of our staff had driven in and saw this happening and stopped and told the resident that they need to clean that up. This is not the right place to dump brush. And there were some words. The resident told him to mind his business and then proceeded to tell him to come to his house so they could resolve it. So the police were called. They are working on a report. We do have a police report number on file. So as in the past, we have, and this doesn't happen too often, but when it has happened, we brought it to the board and requested a ban of 1 year from using the transfer station or the brush drop off.
So is this a residential permit or a commercial permit?
Residential.
All right, any questions? All right, so what kind of a motion do we need, Tim?
It's approval to ban this resident from the transfer station in the brush drop off area for 1 year.
Do we have a name or a permit number? that
We
can
have
include?
a license plate, permit number and the name.
All right, what's the permit number?
It's on the letter, Tim. It's A1419.
A 1419.
Yes,
All right, so we are then banning, or no, we're not. What we're doing is we're
suspended.
revoking permit A 1419. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're suspending the use of the facilities for 1 year.
Okay, but I want to tie it to a permit number.
Yeah.
All right. So do I have a motion?
A motion to revoke and suspend the permit for 1 year, permit number A1419.
All right. Mr. LaBelle moves suspension of the permit for a year. Chair seconds. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Permit is revoked for a year. All right. Committee updates. I have nothing on that. So Ron, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay, Tim, director update.
So we have, I'm just gonna share my screen. Here we go. Not the one. So that one still works. So to date, we have submitted $4,830,000 and $4,830,459 to the county. And we have approved $1,933,913 dollars in projects from the county. And we just recently submitted this project right here, which is the 579 water treatment facility upgrade construction for $2,768,000. We have submitted that to the county and we're waiting for review, comments, or approval. So that, plus I think the only other pending project on the county funding for ARPA is the Dartmouth Schools HVAC project for $664,152. So that leaves about $360,000 remaining in the kitty for future projects. So you can look at these highlighted projects moving forward. I know the selectmen did state that they wanted any future funding to be to represent 100% of the town, not a lower percentage like 70% or whatever. But I know that the county funding is a lot more restrictive than the revenue replacement funding that they get. So the revenue replacement doesn't have as many limitations on projects. The county limits projects to, I know, water, wastewater, stormwater, and schools. So there's I don't think there's any way to get 100% of the residents impact. But our project moving forward include these 4 highlighted projects, which is the water pollution control switch gear replacement. We had done upgrades on one switch gear component that had failed. Now we're looking to upgrade the rest of them. So that's a $212,098 project. Above that, we have the Fons Corner Road pump station insertion valve for $55,000. Also, the purchase install 1 biofilter blower and 3 VFDs. So we have 2 biofilter blowers projects in the works that were approved. Now we're looking at, we met with Alternative Energy consultant in the town energy, Alternative Energy personnel director, and they agreed that we should update the VFDs as well when we do update the blowers. So we added that project, and then the water pollution control odor control pump replacement spare. So I think those are probably our prioritized items for the amount remaining in that kitty. So I just want to let the board know that that's what we're looking at, and I'll probably put this together in a presentation for the Board of Selectmen for the next meeting, for them to approve these prioritized projects moving forward, so we can also apply for them at the county level.
Tim, is there any chance that you could add some of the stormwater upgrades that you were looking at for the Paid Aram area?
There is, we could add that. I know we did submit, we are working on submitting for a grant with Buzzards Bay, which is in it's due, I think, mid-July, July 11th or so. So I'll be working with Buzzards Bay on that as well, but we can submit on some of that here as well.
Yeah, I suggest you develop several other projects along those lines so that you have more than the available funding in your project list.
Yeah, so if you look at below these highlighted items, we have numbers and quotations for all of these items down this list, including Water Street stormwater treatment, Gladys Street stormwater treatment. So we do have numbers for these items, and we have plans on some of these as well. So we definitely have a list of a lot more than we have submitted.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't, Tim, I'm sorry, I don't see what you're talking about on this list that's on the screen.
Oh, am I sharing this one? All right, let me, hold on. So. All right. All right, I had two working spreadsheets.
so Tim, you're working two screens, right?
I'm working two screens, yep. So this is, and I have both
Okay,
spreadsheets open. So the
That makes more
numbers,
sense.
were also on the, most of the numbers were on the smaller
Right.
spreadsheet that I was
Right.
sharing. Now you can see this one, see the highlighted items?
yes,
These 4 highlighted items I read off, and below these items, there's a list of other items that we have numbers on. And some we have quotations for, we have plans for. So we do have a large number of items that could be submitted. Bob,
and what are the drainage issues that you're talking about, Rob?
As they're finishing off the roads, there are a number of drainage facilities that can be upgraded in one way or another to improve stormwater quality.
yeah, so we're looking at treatment structures, for reduction of, nitrogen and phosphorus and, and other impairments,
Yep.
from the stormwater, which
Yep.
they're expensive structures, when you compare them to just like a swirl separator, like a storm scepter, which is basically taking out oils and sediments
Yep.
that we usually use, but when you reach out for this higher treatment, these structures are pretty expensive. So we're looking at Water Street, Gladys, and Day Street upgrades for the treatment of stormwater. So it's basically we may be able to do kind of a BMP upgrade. We have existing catch basins. So if our plan was to install some of these structures, just upgrading of those catch basins. So once that treatment structure is inundated, then the overflow would go to the existing basin.
Yep.
So it catch at least the first flush, of any storm. So those are two of the stormwater projects. We also have Flag Swamp Road stormwater construction to finish up. We have, we have numbers on that. I don't think we have Hicksville Road on here. It's not designed yet.
Right, but you've got more than enough to continue to make submittals through the
Correct.
closing date to make sure that you've actually maybe applied for more money than is available.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that was the select board's concern.
Mhm.
In other
Yeah,
words, they don't want to leave any money on the table.
No,
Nope.
neither do we.
Sure.
Neither do we.
All right.
And
Any
to
other?
date, to date, we have expended a total of $953,707, in out of the projects that we have been awarded. So that money has also already been expended. The clam press project over here at the Water Pollution Control Facility is underway. They mobilized on Monday and began the project on Tuesday to rebuild the 2 clam press in the compost facility. So that is currently underway.
And then is this are these reimbursement grants? In other words, you spend the money and then they give you a check?
No, it's not. They actually, once approved, it goes to committee. Once they vote it, they send a check to the town. It goes into an account and we fund it directly out of that account. So it's not reimbursement.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Good. All right. Any other questions on this?
Nope.
All right. Next item, Tim, is results of the town meeting.
All right. So let's see. So town meeting approved and supported our operational budget and our capital improvement projects. There were some minor questions on some of our capital improvement projects, but nothing substantial, just informative questions, which were pretty easy to answer. some questions went off a little on tangents on, you know, on other, you know, issues in town, you know, based on, you know, one question was based on DEP, you know, regulations that were put on hold for the town of Dartmouth, but they're working on them down the Cape, and that eventually they're gonna come into effect, so, you know, and there were questions on nitrogen reduction as well. So I informed the, you know, the residents that part of the interim aeration project is to include some additional nitrogen removal in that project. But we also, town meeting also approved the use of the funding for the Pascamanset River protection project, because the state grant is a reimbursable grant, so money would need to be allocated for that purchase prior to the reimbursement. So that was approved at town meeting as well.
Right.
Other than that, the town charter changes, the town charter change for the DPW was indefinitely postponed. And I know Rob spoke on it, and there were other members of different committees and that stood up and spoke based on the proposed changes, and it was voted to indefinitely postpone.
As a note, one of the things that DPW needs to do, and Tim, I think the board should be involved at some level. In August and September, it would be well worth your time to sit down and maybe bring in Matt and maybe bring in one or two of the other consultants and look hard at the structure of DPW and see if there are any changes in how the organization is structured, and also maybe pick up some of the other personnel recommendations that we keep seeing coming through.
Sure.
And one of the things that was discussed by the select board in the context of the charter changes were concerns about how the DPW is structured and run. So I think it would be really smart to take a look at that and give them some kind of feedback. And if there are changes that are appropriate, suggest them.
Yeah, so one of the capital improvement projects that was approved at town meeting was to fund the part of the second phase of the study. So the second phase of the study from the Abrahams group is the rest of the DPW, kind of the efficiency of the division of the whole department. So it was approved to fund the rest of that phase of this project. So moving forward, that's what we'll be starting to work with the Abrahams group.
All right. Sounds good. Now, Tim, we deferred consideration of your personnel evaluation.
Yes.
I had a conversation with the interim town administrator about whether and how to put that back on the regular agenda today. Did you talk to him about that?
No.
All right. So we're going to have to defer that consideration, and it will need to be on the regular agenda because it doesn't qualify for consideration in an executive session, at least from what I was told. So that's the reason it was deferred. So I think depending on what you think, what you, Tim, want to recommend to us, we could have a brief noticed meeting to consider that between now and our next meeting. or we can put it on our next meeting agenda.
Okay,
All right, I'll leave that to you to make a proposal to us,
that works.
and see if there's a date that works.
Okay.
All right. All right, any other business to consider, Tim?
Just an update on personnel vacancies. At the end of the summer, we're looking at, multiple retirements. One SMEO, which is a licensed, hydraulic or hoisting license operator, who's also a foreman. And then, a couple of drivers as well. So currently, that at the end of the summer, that'll put us down about 12 drivers, 1 craftsman in the water division, and then 2 SMEOs. And I reached out to the acting town administrator, one of them, both of them, and requested a meeting to discuss this moving forward, along with the personnel director, maybe a selectman and a board member. So. And I also, I'd like to sit down and look at our options, moving forward, how we can incentivize some of these positions, to get people in, get them hired and, before we really lose, services that we provide to the residents of this town. We're feeling the effects when anybody calls in, at times, the highway division's taking mechanics to drive a, solid waste or recycling truck because we don't have enough drivers out there. And, there are projects in the town that we have been asked to assist with, construction projects that we just don't have the manpower anymore or the crews to put together because we're lacking either, an SMEO and an HMEO to put these crews together.
Tim, have you submitted any recommendations for hiring?
I have, not to the acting town administrators, but one of the acting town administrators, the finance director, was in our meeting when we discussed some recommendations, and those weren't really approved moving forward. It seemed like they were supported, so.
And why is that?
That I'm not sure.
So we're down roughly, I'm looking at 12 drivers and 2 MEOs.
Yeah.
Somebody
That's-
calls in sick, you're taking mechanics so that they can pick up solid waste. But they're denying applications for people who want the job. And
Well,
their reasoning is,
because we're trying to bring, so pretty much it's the pay scale. So starting bringing somebody into the step 1 that has experience in these fields and holds the licenses, has been, say they have 10, 15 years of experience, for them to take a step 1 job, they can go work anywhere in another industry that doesn't require licenses, to make the same amount of money. And then on top of that, the healthcare is pretty expensive. So that really eats into their pay. So we're trying to bring in at a higher step. But the problem is we don't want to jump existing personnel that are in those positions, which would create more morale problems. So if we bring in somebody at a higher step, we always recommend moving everybody up
Well,
relatively.
I think you have to.
Yeah,
But my question is, because I'm a little, has the personnel department or labor relations, whatever we call it in the town, personnel, have they sort of deferred your ability to hire people based on their qualifications? Like, in other words, they didn't have enough experience in the job.
Yeah, they have.
Right, and, I find it hard to believe that an administrator would know how well a truck driver drives.
Right.
And we're short this many people, so these things make absolutely no sense to me.
And And
Um,
I discussed, these with the union representative and typically the union representative that represents the union, is supporting of these recommendations, but then at the town level, they seem to get denied or changed.
So Tim, you're trying to put together a meeting that includes one of the board members?
Yes,
And if I heard correctly, Ron, you're limited in how much travel you can do.
Well, for at least another week anyway.
Yeah, so you can either do it on your porch, and I think that'd be a great place to have a meeting. Or you can involve Ron as part of a Zoom call, or in a week, if you're able to. Don't push yourself. I don't want to incur the wrath of your in-house
No.
nurse.
No, don't worry about that.
No, I do worry about that.
No.
Ron, it's a constitutional issue,
Yeah.
because
So,
in the
you wouldn't get in
Constitution,
trouble, but I would.
yeah, well, just remember, in the Constitution, in the preamble, it says, preserve the domestic tranquility. Remember that phrase?
Yes, I do. I also remember preserve, protect, and defend.
Yeah, right, exactly.
at all
Okay,
costs. And also
All right,
that, this also relates to the compensation plan and reclassification study that recommends looking at comparing these annually and then doing a full comparison in every 5 years. So, I don't think these have been compared annually. We just get told that no, that has to be negotiated, or that we can't make a decision on that. But I think they need to follow that recommendation and compare these.
Well, I think my
job
major
titles.
concern is that the personnel director, can make a recommendation, not a decision.
Correct.
That's the decision of the Director of Public Works approved by the Board of Public Works.
Mhm.
She can make a recommendation, she or he, whoever it is, but a recommendation only, not
Right.
the final say.
Correct.
And that's what's beginning to, this is out of control now. We don't have enough staff to do the job.
Nope, we do
And
not.
that in itself is a morale destroyer.
It is. It is.
all right. So Tim, you'll keep us apprised of setting that meeting up, and you've got the overall issue of hiring, but you also have a grievance to talk about, and they're in many ways related.
Correct.
So I think you're in a place where it's fair to push for this meeting pretty hard.
Yep.
All right. Anything else to discuss before the board?
You did ask for an update on the Peyton Aaron Bridge. So as an update, Majeski and Masters, who's the design consultant that Mass DOT has approved to look at the Peyton Aaron Bridge and design either the rehabilitation or replacement. On April 2nd and 3rd, Majeski and Masters had staff down inspecting the mechanics and electrical portions of the bridge. They had asked at that time that we had a bridge tender and that the bridge be operable. So the highway division put on the gates and the gate arms and made sure it was operable, and we had a tender available to operate the bridge for them so they can finalize their inspections. They haven't responded. I did ask for an update on that, so I haven't heard from them. But on June 12th, Niche Engineering confirmed that they will be performing an existing condition survey on the bridge, and they requested all utility plans and for the area of the bridge, so they can complete their survey plan for Majeski and Masters. So that's currently
Right.
where we are.
Okay. Ron, any questions?
No, sir.
Sooner the better with the bridge. It's that time of year.
Yes, yeah.
And it may get hot, and that's often when the bridge has issues, right?
Definitely is, yes.
All right.
We've had a number of issues. I think 7 or 8 failures already. limit switch, related, 50-ton jack related. There's been some, I think a breaker went electrical related. So there's been mechanical and electrical failures, a number of them. And it's just getting hot, so.
So every time there's a failure like that, do you notify the state?
We don't notify the state, but we do keep a record, and basically at the end of the season, I forward those records to the state and to Majeski Masters for their records.
You know, I haven't thought much about this, but once upon a time, I might have considered sending them a notice every time there's a failure and copying the state legislative delegation. I'm not sure that's a good idea or a bad idea, but it occurs to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. You definitely agree.
And CC the town administrator as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other items?
No, just that they're monitoring the temperature of the bridge to make sure it doesn't get too hot. If they have to, they'll bring out the flush truck to cool it down. Hopefully to avoid failure, not in response to failure.
So do they use salt water or fresh water?
I think yeah, they use fresh water. It'd be from a hydrant.
All right, and that costs us money.
It costs us money, yeah, but it probably costs more if we used salt water through the, through the truck,
Yeah, right,
with
exactly.
corrosion.
Right. All right, anything else?
That is it for now.
All right, thank you. I will, Ron, if you have nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Mr. LaBelle has moved to adjourn our meeting. The chair seconds. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for your time.